I also want to mention that the Westchester County Board of Legislators has adopted a pay plan amendment which authorizes compensation for a number of different positions. All of these allocations of money have been accounted for in the county budget that we are existing operating on, and in the future that we will be operating under 2025. So there's no additional allocation of money. It's the authorization specifically for those jobs. There's a number of jobs in that pay plan amendment that affected the district attorney's office. We have a new district attorney coming in with the new year, Susan Cacase, and as she takes over her responsibilities, we have governed the financial compensation for those lawyers. It becomes very difficult to compete for legal talent in a world where many talented lawyers can work for private firms at a much greater amount of compensation than they can work for the government. But one of the important elements in there was establishing a higher rate of pay for the position of Westchester County Executive. It's important to understand I'm leaving that office on Thursday, January 2nd, and the higher rate of pay will come in after I have left that office. And yet I've advocated for that. And it's important for me to explain to you what my thinking was so that while any issue becomes debated in the political sphere, that you understand why and what the background is of it. I came into office 7 years ago, and I wanted to establish a certain amount of credibility for the position of county executive in the minds of you, the individual resident. I've served in other positions. I've had a chance to look at what the county executive compensation was, but I believe that it was more important to establish the right kind of relationship and that we're in this for the right reasons, because many times the rhetoric out there is they're only in it for the money. They're just looking to stuff their own pockets. That's all they, meaning the politicians, care about. During this period of time, right at the outset of my administration, I did a number of things that were important. Number one, I had an executive order followed by legislation that passed the Board of Legislators to take the name of public officials off general signage in the county. It was previous that you'd go by a park or a facility, a county center, and other facilities, and you'd see the name of the county executive and sometimes other elected officials' names. It was a promotional effort to promote the interests of the individual, the county executive of the day. I stopped that process 7 years ago. It's still very much in place in a number of other counties, but not here in Westchester County. My name is county executive, and my future successors will not be able to use these public facilities as a place to promote themselves as individuals. The second thing I did was make a commitment to use on a sparing basis that ability that a county executive has to have drivers to take them over the course of the day for whatever events that they have. There are some times in some locations where a member of the County Department of Public Safety will provide that service. But it was routine in past administrations, day after day after day, and it basically allocated individuals' time away from police work to being the driver for the county executive. I consider myself a pretty decent driver, and I have driven to most events over the course of my 7 years myself and taken myself to and from without an entourage around me, no attempt to try to create an image and to allocate resources away from their normal tasks merely to satisfy that which supports the county executive doing their job. The third thing that I did was make a commitment to put in firm term limits on the position of county executive, and we did that. I proposed a law which was passed by the Board of Legislators to limit the Westchester County executive to 2 terms as county executive as a maximum, 2 4-year terms totaling 8 years. And that is what's called a hard term limit. There are term limits that allow you to permit you, once you leave office, to come back in the future and serve again after the fact. But the law that we passed in Westchester County, hard term limits, 2 terms, you get a maximum of 8 years. You do have the right to serve a portion of a prior term if that's unexpired, and as long as that doesn't equal 2 years of that unexpired term. But it means basically that we put a limit on any person in Westchester County having this position for more than 8 years and thereby influencing over a longer period of time with the considerable power that's given to an executive as county executive. We have a 2-term limit in for the presidency of the United States, but in most positions we do not have term limits. I'm a believer in that, but in most cases you have to discuss with colleagues who don't want to see the term limits happen. In this particular case, the law affected me personally, and I accepted that, and it affected forward anybody else who would seek the office of county executive. It does not apply to the 2 living former county executives who operate under the laws as they were when they were in office. But I believe that was an important statement. And I also believed it was an important statement not to raise the salary of the county executive. And so for the last 7 years, I've received the same salary that I had on the first day on the job. as it stands today, the Putnam County executive, running a county of 100,000 people, makes more money than the Westchester County executive does, running a county of 1 million people. The county executives of Rockland, Orange County, Nassau, Suffolk, Albany County, all of those county executives are compensated more than the Westchester County executive because I wanted to make that commitment real. And it wasn't just, I'm going to keep it low for a couple of years, then I'm going to raise it up later on. I kept it low for the full 7 years. And I would have had, as many executives do, the right to come back and ask for additional money, but I did not do that. I made that sacrifice to prove that it's not about the money. It's about what you can accomplish. And my personal financial circumstances are such that I could have used additional money. You know, most of us could. But I felt that the principle was greater than whatever that individual need would be. However, now that we reach the point where in a few weeks, I'm going to be less than 3 weeks, I will be leaving this position, we have to have that position of county executive be properly compensated in sync with other competitive positions. The county executives of Suffolk, Nassau County, and Westchester County are of similar size counties. We're a little smaller than the other two, but that compensation should be relatively comparable. We have municipal officials right now, supervisors in certain towns, Harrison, Bedford come to mind, make more money than the county executive does. The mayor of Yonkers and mayor of Mount Vernon have more money, make more money than the county executive does. And we need to recognize that this position that I've held for 7 years, that manages a $2.5 billion budget, that manages 4,200 employees with diverse services from an airport and a bus system to a social service system and a county prison, county jail, and a host of other things, requires you to be able to compensate an individual proportionate to the work they do. We routinely have school superintendents that make in the $250,000 to $300,000 range in this county. The county executive makes roughly about 60% of that salary. And you have some town and village administrators, some city managers that also exceed what the county executive makes. So I put before the board a policy change. They adopted it today. I'm appreciative of the support that they gave. It was a debatable issue, and it's one of those issues that may come up again when election time rolls around. But I want you to understand that I did this because the position deserves proper compensation, but I did not do it for myself. I did not take a dime of that money. It's important for you to understand that there are times in government where people do things because they think it's right, and not all the time because the perception out there is we're all corrupt and we're all self-serving and that whole thing. You can't change public perceptions, and there are enough examples of bad behavior by other individuals. But I wanted to be understood that we knew what was the right thing to do to properly compensate this position. It was approved by the Board of Legislators. It was already built into a budget that doesn't raise your taxes, your general fund taxes. So I think I wanted to be sure that you understood these circumstances.